Welcome back again to the Unlearning podcast, where we talk about all sorts of stuff from mental health to the toxicity of religion and grifter pastors. And joining me today is JD Forehand and Karl Forehand. I'm Stuart Delony. And in our session here, we'll be talking about establishing community/mutual aid networks in the time of declining social safety nets. So who wants to hop in on this one?
JD's topic. I want him to introduce it. Yeah.
Fine. My thinking about along this was just we usually do these kind of kind of unlearning, relearning, these kind of things at the on our a little fourth session, and we've talked about a lot of dealing with the trauma of all the things that are going on in the world, whether it's the Trump presidency in America or whether it's civil war in Sudan or whatever it is. I don't know if we talked about the civil war in Sudan yet, but we'll get there. But I was thinking about little ways that people can get involved, and I don't remember exactly when I had that. I think I was debating because as I was telling you guys off air, I'm teaching religion and sociology right now, and obviously I'm not teaching them about each individual religion, but we're teaching about religion's role in society and its function, or at least its previous function now that it has lost a lot of its function. And one of those things is kind of an anarchistic idea of mutual aid that's been needed for a long time throughout history because we haven't had these kind of social safety net things. And now I was thinking about this, especially in regards to America right now with the cutting of DEIA stuff. A lot of people do need these mutual aid networks. And so kind of just hopefully at the end here, kind of pointing out that is an important thing that we should be we should have been doing it a long time ago, but we should be setting them up right now. And that's something that I think as many critiques as I do have for the church, that's one thing that some churches, not all churches, some churches do well, is that I was literally pointing this out to my kids today, which is why I made it this topic, is they're like, oh, well, a lot of these religions, there sounds like there's so many negative sides. And I would tell them about some of my personal experiences from living in a small town. But I would say, listen, also there were functions, especially in, rural Midwest, is that, if you got sick or you had some problem, if you were in good standing with the church, and again, there's a lot of things we can talk about around this, like, oh, you became anathema because you did X, Y, Z, whatever. But in a lot of cases, people would come out and treat you like a neighbor and bring you food or bring you medicine or whatever. And I think that's something.
Crops. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. All of that stuff. And I think that's something that we can take, and we don't obviously have to tie to religion, but it is something that we should be setting up for numerous reasons, whether it's for healthcare, especially for feminine healthcare right now. And yeah, I think that's something to not keep droning on, but it's something that we need to figure out how we're going to establish these things, especially in terms of cutting DEI, which I am trying to get people to start saying DEIA, because that's what the actual acronym is. And the A stands for accessibility. And that's one of the big things that they're cutting is access for people with disabilities, or mental illness, things like that. And yeah, so that's been giving me an aneurysm lately. But yeah, anyway, I think we need to start establishing these kind of mutual aid networks. I think it's an important thing. What do you guys think?
No, I think you were mentioning this, and the church, at least in the American context, I'm not saying all the churches, but the church used to provide some sort of a social safety net to part of the population. And I think then at some point they just allowed the government to start doing it because, I don't know, helping people and all the other stuff's expensive. And we need to have more of this and that and the other. But I think that idea of mutual aid, when we think about churches used to do it, labor unions are a part of doing it. I remember when I was trying to do a little bit of research for this, but even the Black Panthers had a breakfast program, which is fantastic. I mean, that we've had parts of our history where people helping people is an effective survival strategy. And I think with all the stuff, like you mentioned, like US aid, all these other things that are being slashed here in America, and we don't know what to do right now. And I think that we're used to being able to say that, oh, the state's going to come and help us. But, well, I don't know. Social Security, who knows if how long that's going to be around? Like rising food costs, everything's being privatized. And we can't wait for the government, and especially the politicians now who are deeply unserious, at least the ones at the helm, waiting for them to fix stuff is going to be a fool's errand. And I think that us being able to create nets and community safeties for people around us is going to be the way forward when this happens, as it is happening.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that some of JD's experience was in the small town churches that we pastored, where we experienced that when someone died and their crops were still in the field. The farmers of the area, not from our church necessarily, but some of them would come together and they'd have a whole deal, meals and all that kind of stuff for the people that came. But then they'd bring, 10 tractors would show up and combines and things like that and finish the harvest for that widow. It was a natural thing. And then some of those, they were pretty natural, even if they were horrible in a lot of other ways.
Yeah,
they understood that thing of helping people when they're down, and they had some empathy and compassion. When our grandson was born with disabilities, the church next door raised several $1,000s. I mean, it's just a dent in whatever expenses they might have, but for that initial thing, they did that. So I think the church has potential, but I also know that when you get over about 100 people, it becomes a lot about preserving the organization and keeping it running. And I think it's usually less than 5% of their money goes anywhere. We were a high giving church at all three churches where we gave over 20% of what came in back, usually to the association or something like that. So then it's trickling down to some other things a little bit. So, the bigger you get, the more it kind of gets minimized.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about Franklin Graham a few episodes back, and USAID owes him millions of dollars. So they were supporting him, and giving away his shoeboxes, mostly probably for his private jet to get over there to deliver a shoebox and get his name in the news and so on. But I think there's that potential in community for mutual aid. Number one, when you know your neighbor and when you love your neighbor, if they're going through something horrific, you want to do whatever you can to help them, because you look them in the eye and you identify with them. But it's not happening.
No,
like it should.
No, and I think it's easy for us now to also blame this simply on Trump, and there's plenty of that to go around. There's plenty of blame. So I am not giving that bastard a hall pass on this one. But no, a lot of this is a response to capitalism, which I know we'll kind of dive into some other things. I mean, the idea that the rich are profiting off crisis, the rich are profiting off everything about us right now. And so I think we're trying to disrupt things because the system is getting disrupted one way or the other. But I think being able to create systems where we can have resources for others in the community, and ultimately long-term relying less on the systems that exploit us, and almost creating new systems in here, in our communities, smaller things.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to say is there can't be a profit motive in it, which is why the one group, and there's a number of groups that I could have put in here in terms of our notes, but the one that I put in here was Four Thieves Vinegar Collective, because literally you can go on, I don't know if either of you went onto their merch page, but literally on their merch page, it has like a big awesome long list, and it all just says like, oh, t-shirts, except we don't sell t-shirts because we don't sell anything. And it's literally just not profit driven. Like they do have a donate page. So if you want to bang them, like, ding them on that, that's fine. But like, they basically are like, put everything out for free. It's like freeware on the internet. And I think we got to kind of find a way to do that, or at least create, maybe it's whatever, a barter system or whatever it is. But we just have to be willing to help people for free in our spare time. If we can add a couple hours to our week to do it, I think that's what it's going to have to be. The alternative is like, again, and this is why we were talking about Franklin Graham being quote unquote pro-life. That's such a fucking bullshit term that makes me so pissed. It's not pro-life. They're only anti-abortion. They don't give a shit if people die. People die all the time because of the stuff they do. It's such a farcical term. I don't think we should use it anymore. But anyway, if we do want to be pro-life, if we want to make sure that, you know, people who are in marginalized communities are safe and able to live happy, healthy lives, that's what we have to do. Like, there's just not any two ways about it, because people already are dying. They're not going to start dying. They are dying because of decisions that the current administration has made and that previous administrations have made, even ones that people may like. That's just the reality. And if we don't fix these things where government has just an unwillingness to help, or says, well, we got to cut pennies, or whatever it is, like, people are going to continue to die. And I don't think that's okay.
Right.
I think all this stuff happening, though, in a weird way, I will say this. For one, Trump's first administration, it was the one good thing I will say that came from it is I really think it exposed the fact that we haven't done the work for equality in our country that we thought we had done. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it was one of those things going, no, we're not anywhere near there. We still have a lot of work to do. And I think the second term, what we're getting right now, is also realizing, yeah, the government's not going to save you. And we have to start beginning to look at life and community and all of this stuff differently. And I know we want things to be comfortable and easy. We want to buy everything off Amazon and have it shipped directly to our house. We want to be able to only talk to people when we want to across social media and things like that. But this is going to lead us to a place where we need to be breaking these things down. And like Karl, you're mentioning, knowing our neighbors, knowing the people that are struggling, like, what is happening around me? Like, where are the collective needs in my community? Because these are the things we can do to affect change, instead of just being on social media bitching about it or doing all this other stuff, you know, podcasting about how everything's terrible. You know, but it's those things where we get our hands dirty in a positive way, you know, trying to do good things to be able to help those who are in need, because it's gonna get worse.
Yeah. It absolutely is. And that's where I think we have to find where certain pieces of our expertise may be, and whatever that way might be, whether it's, but I think, I guess to Dad's point, it can't be creating new hierarchies.
Correct.
I don't think that that's ever been or ever will be the answer, is to create new hierarchies. I think it has to be anti-capitalist, or at least a capitalist, I guess. There has to be no profit motive. And I think it can't be trying to raise ourselves up. I think you could be, maybe part of your role maybe is to put out some sort of message, or to try to, like, build a community as, like, speaking. But if you're trying to raise yourself up inside of that, I think that's only going to lead to inflated egos and hurt feelings and people hurting each other.
I just did some math on 300 million people. A penny per 300 million people moves a decimal place over 2 places, right? So 300 million people give a penny, that's $3 million, right? Am I doing that right?
Sounds right.
Something like that.
That's the allure. In the Southern Baptist Convention, it's the mission board. I can't remember the cooperative program. Some of those things, right? Our second church, so the first church, we saw that getting the crops in thing happen a couple of times. In our second church, it was plagued with floods because we lived on an oxbow lake that came off the Missouri River, and it flooded every so often. And
also, it's probably sin too.
Yeah, we finally kind of gave up because
gay marriage, I think.
It flooded once too often for us. But once, when it affected our church, when it got in, in the floodplain underneath the church and flooded the basement, then the cooperative program, my director of missions, came and gave us a check for $5,000. Didn't totally fix anything, but it helped. But you see that $5,000 and you think about how much bureaucracy that is filtered down through, and how many fully paid people that do other things. And also there's another part of it, like in the Southern Baptist Convention, they have what's called Project Recovery or something. It's a where you go into like hurricanes and so on. Do you know they wear yellow shirts? I can't remember what they're called. Do you know, Stuart?
I can't remember, but yeah, sure, go ahead.
So they're the guys that come in with the trailers and they have shower trailers and they fix lunches and then of course they evangelize and do those kind of things. But the guy for our region was in our last church, the third church, and I saw the money that he didn't get from up in the denomination, right? He had to privately, himself fundraise. And our church kind of just, in a sense, made him one of our main missionaries to give him enough money so he didn't have to keep coming out of his own pocket to go do this. My thing is that I'm assuming governments are like that and church bureaucracies and so on are like that. And there's a few charities that give most of their money away, and there's most of them give very little once they get into being an organization like we talk about, because the organization comes first, and it's hard to get excited about one person if that one person is not in your small farming community. You know what I mean?
Well, I think also what begins to happen in the way that we talk about churches and how they handle things, there's a huge disconnect between the problem that's happening and how we're told. It's like we'll have a love offering passed around for these folks or whatever, and now you go off and do that, so we don't have to do anything more, and we feel good about it. And the idea of, if we're talking about mutual aid networks, it's mutual. Like I feel like it's people needing to actually be there and be involved, and not just be like, oh, this is terrible what's happening over there, I'll give you $25 so I don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah. And it's a way that we disconnect from the reality of people's pain and the reality of what's going on. I worked for it was an evangelistic organization that reached out, like a lot of ours reached out to at-risk kids in communities when I was in the Pacific Northwest. But I think a lot of the churches that supported what we did, because we had to raise our own funds and we were missionaries, they liked doing it because they didn't have to go and mess with these kids. It was kind of the thing was like, we'll help you abdicate our role of Christianity. Like, we don't need to know our neighbor if we can pay someone to, but then it makes me feel good like I'm doing it. And this is exactly the opposite. What we're talking about is something that's decentralized and something that's skill based. Maybe we're sharing skills with other people that we have in our collective neighborhoods and stuff. And I just think it's weird. I feel like it's us going back to honestly just trying to be more communal.
Yeah, people don't want that kind of stuff in their home neighborhood. I had a discussion with the guy JD's age that JD knows. I won't say his name, but talking about immigration and so on, and people coming here. I said sometimes those people come from countries that are just torn up, and they're escaping, they're fleeing. And he said, no, we should go there and do mission work instead of letting them come here. So that's just almost blatant racism. We don't want dark people here with their problems. But also that can go on in small towns, don't get me wrong, because if the community decides to do something, there's some decision makers in the community that are making that decision, right? They say this is okay. Sometimes they also say, no, that guy doesn't deserve anything because I know what he did, and everybody knows what he did, so he doesn't deserve anything. So we're not going to do it in this case. So there can still be an organizational hierarchy in a small church, and there can still be that in a small town. It's just we're too close to each other to just ignore it and go, I didn't see anybody in poverty. I didn't see any homeless people. Whatever.
And I think the ultimate thing behind this is that it has to be, embracing something like this has to disrupt our normal lives. And I don't think there's a way just to have this added in. I mean, I think the whole nature of it is the fact that we are disrupting the normalness of what we're doing. Our autonomy, how quickly we get what we want and what we want to do, and it slows things down.
My neighbor scoops our snow. He just did that. There's too much ice melt on it, and I have to sweep it off. But he just came and do that. So we make cookies for him now, and kind of pay him back.
That's mutual aid.
Yeah. I think cookies are restorative. But anyway,
it literally is. It literally is. But
he's a
my
Trump
first
supporter,
thing.
by the way.
But again, you could build a community with him by giving him cookies. Maybe he'll be softened up, maybe physically and mentally, and then maybe he'll come around to your side. My thing with, you mentioned the thing about we need to send missionaries to, like, brown countries or, foreign countries or what. They don't, I mean, yeah, they send a token handful, but they don't fucking do that anyway. So shut up. Like, shut up. You're not doing that. Do the work. If you're going to do that, then do that. But if otherwise, then you don't get to say like, oh, they, shouldn't try to come here. Cause yeah, if your family was if your wife was about to have her head cut off because she didn't wear a hijab or something, or because you were a Christian, for instance, you would probably do whatever you could to get to somewhere where you could find religious freedom. So that's a bullshit thing. But I do think that's why it has to be numerous things in terms of, like you were talking about getting the $5,000 to fix the flooded basement. Would it have not been more efficient to just get to use networking to find people within the town that could have helped you
In the
do it for free,
community.
and then you guys
Yeah.
could have given something
I
back
think
to
it
them?
definitely would have been, because all
Like,
it ended up being is a PR stunt for my director of missions.
yeah,
Right.
because he can
Look,
hold up the
here
big
we
fucking
are
cardboard
giving
check.
$5,000.
Did they take pictures?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
And several dignitary in the church people showed up to be in the picture.
It's going to be on a newsletter.
And they
it's going to be in a
paid for them to come out
slideshow.
there.
It's Yep. It was PR.
Yeah, indeed.
It's fucking wasteful, and like that's my thing. Is just like, that's why I like what Four Thieves, and what they do is, like, they have a lot of medicine stuff, and like I haven't personally like gone through every piece of efficacy of what they do, but I think from what I've understood, I've listened to interviews with some of the people that run it. I think their hearts are at least in the right place. That doesn't mean that what they do is perfect. They're very worthy of criticism. But again, putting those things out there, especially if it's things like a flooded basement, how do you fix it? You put it up. Thankfully, we have like YouTube and stuff like that makes some of this stuff slightly easier. But creating networks, like, I was thinking about the same thing in terms of churches, or you can, if you don't want to do it in a religious context, like phone trees that you'd have for like baseball practice or whatever. Like, just having those things come back can be super useful. I think we have to be careful about doing it like on Facebook and stuff, because then people get into the comment section and start throwing fucking shit at each other like they're goddamn chimpanzees. But like, if we can have something where like, hey, I have an emergency, I call you, you call 3 other people. Okay, who can help? This is what the situation is. All right, let's figure it out together. Because people are brought together in terms of in these kind of crisis situations. If we have this community that hopefully we're building in person, maybe we'll be able to deal with some of this shit. But if we don't get on it, and if we just go, well, I'll just send out a tweet or whatever, it's not going to fix it. People are going to, it's going to be the same stuff that, honestly, like, a lot of people who like make fun of Christians, where they're like, fuck your thoughts and prayers, that kind of stuff, which I totally vibe with, because it doesn't mean anything. You're not really doing anything. You're just making yourself feel better. But it's the same thing when someone goes, my friend's unhoused, who can help fix it? Or my fucking toilet exploded today. Can anyone help me? And they go, feeling bad for you, thoughts and prayers. There's been a situation that I saw on Facebook recently, and that's all I see. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. It's like, what a fucking
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know you do. But it's and I get it, because people a lot of times don't know what to do, but that's why we have to, before there is an emergency, construct these things.
Yeah, and it's no matter what situation, you're going to have to fight the power people.
Yeah,
that want to say, don't do anything to that guy, and just kind of rule out compassion and so on. So it's,
I think too, but I think the encouragement for people is, don't wait for permission to do stuff.
Absolutely.
Don't wait for something, for this to happen. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, start doing it, or getting involved in small areas.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the expert. Find other people that in your community that may be doing this.
You'll learn as you do it.
Yeah.
And also, you can't, I think I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Do you need some mutual aid to gather that back again?
Probably do.
There are numerous organizations like and like some of these places because they are super I guess decentralized. Like for instance, Food Not Bombs. There's people have critiques of them and stuff, but like they're literally going out and just feeding people. Like they're not. It's not for profit. It's not anything like that. It's just like people that are like, hey, I'm in this place. We want to create a Food Not Bombs, whatever group. The group, there's no. You just basically say you're part of Food Not Bombs. Like there's no hierarchy to any of it, and then you go do it. You just go feed people. Like that kind of stuff. It's not the easiest, but it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard. And I think in a lot of cases, when people start doing it, they realize it's super fulfilling.
Yeah. And I think we also have to start like not looking at it anymore. And I feel like the church has done this too. And also social networks, the way that we've set up social support networks by government, this isn't just charity. Like, I think we can look down upon this like we're doing charity for people. Oh, they need this because I'll do this for you. But I feel like this is more of like community and survival for others. But it's good for me as well, too, because it pulls me out of where I'm at to go and to feed people or to get involved in something else. Because I think we get too much caught in routine. And sometimes a little shakeup is good.
And to that point, you'll find, and this is, I can speak to like the history of that Dad also knows in the church. There have been times when we like, help someone as a church, and maybe we ended up harming them more than we helped them, but we would help them. And that person would be the person who came and ended up building 60, 70, 80% of the church. They would like literally constructing it. I don't mean like building it as in like growing the followers, because whatever that means, but like literally like coming in and like building the foundation or like constructing parts of the church. Like you can find people
lived there. You basically lived in
exactly. Yeah, I know who what I'm talking about. But like it's the same thing. Like if you give someone a meal and go, I'm going to make sure that your base needs are met, and I also want to know you as a person. What skills do you, because people have like these people, just because someone's hungry doesn't mean they're skillless piece of shit. I know that's like what Republicans want to teach you, but like this person probably has some skill that they can add to you or give to you or create, some sort of platform to like share with other people. And then we all kind of learn something from that. And like, it sounds idealistic, but it's really not that difficult, and it really can improve a lot of people's lives.
So in a way, we really kind of do need to take it out of government's hands and out of big church hands, and take it back down to a local level.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow still caring about our neighbors and so on. JD, you went to New Orleans with us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I can't believe you guys let me drive the church van on the way back, which...
That was frightening.
I would like to say a little story real quick. You guys all fell asleep when I was maybe 15. Maybe I was 16. I can't remember. I think I was 15. I think I had a learner's permit. And I was driving back on the highway.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was like, oh man, I'm like really tired. And then I looked around and I was like, everyone's asleep. Like I could have killed someone right there, where I was just like, I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of drifting over the line. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't believe you guys let a 15-year-old drive a 15-passenger bus.
So is this an example of not mutual, like bad mutual aid? Like where we needed somebody with more skills in the driver's seat?
I was pretty good at putting up drywall, though, I will say.
Okay.
Yeah. So what it ended up with, the work we actually did eventually, it was in New Orleans after the hurricane or whatever. It
was after
Katrina. The city. And so I think the real work we did finally was some drywall work, mostly in mudding. But it cost us $1,500 a person to go, right? At least. And then take our van and the gas for the van.
Mm-hmm. Time.
Huh?
And it costs time too.
Time.
Yeah.
And I think that experience is good mainly for the adults that went, because they were the adults that could afford to go and they needed to learn a little humility in helping someone else. So that was good, but it was also really stressful to try.
And we lived in a town that flooded every 3 years anyway. We probably could have just done that in our own town.
Yeah.
Like that's my thing. Is like
some of that. But
we did, and we did to some degree. But like, that's my thing is we could have sent money down there if we needed to to some sort of like, non-hierarchical organization, but we also could have done a lot more work in our community. Not that we didn't do anything. Again, we definitely did. We cleaned up stuff for free, whatever, but like we could have put a lot more effort into that community.
So love your neighbor.
I think what you said,
Love your neighbor.
there was some good that came out of it. I'm not saying it's all bad.
I want to ask this to both of you. Can it get to where you get a J.D. Vance kind of attitude of, well, we just take care of our own. That's what we do.
I mean, my question then is, what is our own? When he says that kind of stuff, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, it's there's things that we have control over, and there's things we don't have control over. Especially when it comes to aid and lots of other stuff. Government's big. All these other things are kind of larger than us individually. But I feel like with J.D. Vance trying to say, yes, take care of our own first, and then we'll start doing anything else. I feel like that's a mentality of just, I feel like it's an excuse. It's an excuse for me to hoard things, to not give out. And then, but when is enough too? Is where I always get lopped on this. Like when are we secure enough?
What color you are for him.
Yeah. Oh, that too.
JD's dogs are going crazy.
Yeah, they just ran outside because there's another dog barking outside. Sorry, I tried to mute my mic, but it didn't really work very well. But it's, first of all, to answer Stuart's question, it's never going to be enough. Second of all, we don't help our own anyway. That's bullshit. They're cutting literally fucking DEI in America right now. Like they're basically throwing up a middle finger and saying, good luck. Hope you guys all starve to death if you're not exactly who I want you to be. So it's nonsense. But yeah, I think simultaneously we should demand from our government very strong safety social nets, but we should also be very aware that a lot of the politicians that are rich enough to run for those offices are not going to want to do that. So we should simultaneously focus on dealing with our local communities. I guess to answer your question, Dad, yeah, I think it could result in some sort of xenophobia, but do I think that in a large part it will? No, because I think even within the community, like for instance, the community you live in, you're going to find enough people that challenge your beliefs, because there are people in your guys' community that are not cisgender, that are not straight white males. You're going to find things that challenge you, and that if you have to actually deal with it, as opposed to just kind of, to use your phrase, bypass it, you have a much better chance of learning than you do if you go, well, I sent a shoebox to a black kid in Africa, so now I'm not racist. I use the N-word in casual conversation, but it's not really racism. Like, that's what most people do. It's just a simple bypassing by saying, like, I gave a shoebox, I'm a big fan of Franklin Graham. It's bullshit.
I sometimes wonder about Angel Tree and whether, like, maybe some years prisoners got more Angel Tree gifts for their family than I did. I don't know. That's a thought that could go off on the rails the wrong way. And
Sorry,
so
I'm going to say some of this stuff. Fuck Christianity for making somehow like Christmas the only time of year we can do nice things for kids and other people. What is that? Like, oh, we really want to make sure a kid like feels good on Christmas. That's such a weird Americanized, contrived idea of anything. Like, what about taking care of these kids all year round? I mean, like, oh, the bicycle will fix it just on Christmas. Think longer. Think like sustainability. Think more than just a one-off, because I feel like that's just tourism and how we do stuff.
JD should talk about the greeting in Taiwan, which says, it goes something like, "Have you eaten?"
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Can you explain
there's
that?
a lot of stuff about food which gets into other issues in terms of like body dysmorphia and stuff. But
fatty and
yeah. But there it is, like it's kind of like and some of this comes from the fact that like not too long ago a lot of people in Taiwan were dealing with martial law and things like that. But like they say 你吃饭了吗? Or if you're in Taiwanese they say 你吃饱了? Like, are you full? Basically, is your stomach full? Is like literally the translation. Like, did you eat until you're full? It's kind of like checking on people. And again, it can go because we can. humans are infinitely fucked up, so we can always make it bad. But I think it is kind of a nice way to ask people, like, are you good? Like, I think that's a thing that we should try to figure out.
I like that part of Kamala's speech when she would say, I never ask, your political affiliation and so on. I ask, are you okay? I like that part of her rhetoric and her speech when she was running.
We maybe should have asked that about her campaign, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I was going to
okay?
say I don't know if she believes that or if that's true, but yeah. I like it as
that's another podcast.
That's a different. Yeah, it's a whole different thing, and I won't get into
it. That's my fault.
I like the idea.
Fault. My bad. Yeah,
I like the idea, and I think it goes with what you're saying, JD. Is
I agree with you.
Are you okay? No, are you doing okay? Can I help?
Are you full?
Are you full?
Like it.
Some of us are never full. That's the problem.
We all know that you were full of shit this morning.
I
forgot that was off podcast. No one's gonna get that.
No, that's fine. It's fine. We're we're trying to create movement here, and Karl's very good at that.
Yeah. I think we've revisited that. We've done the callback enough for that.
The bowels of Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you need to stop.
We need to quit this.
Yeah. We need to pinch a loaf and be done here.
Yeah,
that's it.